at the end of the period or whenever I cue you, you would stop.
Okay. Want me to do that right now?
I already started it.
Okay.
This is one of your jobs.
Do you want me to stop it? Okay.
This is the last minute of your warm-up window. There's no single right or wrong answer, but I do care why you chose a paper or a plastic bag. One minute. Look at my girl. She was this little curly haired bubble baby, like a Stay Puft Marshmallow. And now look at her. She's all like tall and elegant. It's creepy. I think about my mortality a lot. Weird. Sunday she'll be in this class, Alessandra, and you have no memory of me, I'm sure, but I can use you to still be. Is that horrible? Every teacher in the district tells you that, huh? I'm so sorry. Did it happen to my daughter? Everyone will know her? Hopefully not. Your mom keeps a high profile. She's famous. Unforgettable. All right. I don't care which you chose. There's no right answer. But I'd like you to very, very, very quickly tell me which one you chose and why. This should go fast, please. So I'm going to point, and you tell me whether you chose paper or you chose plastic. And break it down to like 1 or 2 words, please. Go.
Plastic because of my dogs.
Next.
Paper because I care about the ocean.
Next.
Plastic because it's smaller to store and you can use it for more
Next.
Neither because reusable bags.
Imagine that you had forgotten it in your car like I do with all of mine. Say what?
Then I go run and get it.
And you were chained to the register.
Plastic because my dog poops a bunch.
Paper for turtles.
Can I just call that an ocean thing again? Can I call that an ocean thing again? Can I just call that an ocean issue? You meant sea turtles?
Yes.
And you're really concerned about your weight? Man, stuff's back weight me down. Yeah. Yeah.
Plastic because it's more durable.
Do you want to clarify what you meant by light? I'm just curious.
Yeah, just like it's easier to like transport. Like you can transport.
Come on. I'll come back to you. What?
It's healthy for the environment.
Healthy for the environment. Oh, I don't know how to spell healthy apparently.
Paper because it's more reusable.
Paper because it's less harmful towards the
The what?
like just say the ocean.
Fine.
Plastic because plastic bags are almost infinitely recyclable.
Plastic because I have a cat.
And you'd like to smother it? Tight. Better for the environment. Let's call that healthy. Yeah.
Paper because I don't like the sound of plastic bags.
Paper because you don't like the sound of plastic bags.
I only use paper bags because it's
Okay.
Paper, I had to. I lived in Ojai.
Ah, right. We'll call that the man. The man makes you.
Paper because ocean.
Next.
Paper for the environment.
Next.
Plastic easier to reuse.
Next.
Plastic for dog food.
Next.
Paper because it's biodegradable and plastic isn't really.
Paper because it's reusable.
Paper because of reusability.
Paper because the animals.
Paper because of recyclability.
Next.
Paper because of the sound.
Okay.
Plastic because it's easier to reuse.
paper because the reusability.
Paper because ocean.
Paper for the environment.
Paper for the environment.
Paper because it's reusable.
Paper for the environment.
Paper because it's reusable.
Paper for the environment.
This is so good.
Paper for the environment.
This is like the most functional class I've ever had.
Paper for the environment.
Oh my god.
Plastic for the durability.
Paper because it holds shape better.
Mind is blown. And?
Paper for the environment.
Alright. Now, almost all of you were making what I would characterize as environmental decisions here. That's why I chose this to illustrate a point. I'd like to distinguish environmentalism from environmental science, and this might illustrate that issue. I think like all the isms, environmentalism is just kind of like, oh, I heard from somebody and the cloud of information I'm getting tells me this fact. So I don't want to make any assumptions about you. Maybe you're like a really educated environmental scientist, but for most people who make these distinctions, I would characterize them as environmentalist choices, except for the shape. Except for the man, which frankly, I think that most people have started plastic bag bans as an ocean protection matter, so I would just kind of erase that and add one up there. Okay. The sound issues, you're just weird. Almost all of these are otherwise, because somebody wants to strangle their cat. Otherwise, these are all like environmentalist choices, I think. It's funny that the science has a lot of things to add or correct about your decision. Coincidentally, you may be surprised to know that paper bags cause much more severe ecological changes to the ocean than plastic bags. Deforestation and the processing of paper really affects sediment loading in the ocean. I'm not trying to like say it science-wise. Paper bags affect the clarity of ocean water, the temperature of ocean water, and the chemical composition of ocean water, which are all characteristics of entire regions of the ocean, which really affect most, if not all, of the food web in those areas. Whereas plastic does choke stupid sea turtles and does probably enter food webs as very, very small pieces of plastic. But plastic bags are neither the biggest part nor the most intractable of those. There's probably other ways to keep the ocean clean. The waste disposal issue
which we think of here. And I think the waste disposal issue that the man was thinking about when they made the plastic bag ban, that probably would have been easier to solve in other ways. I fought the plastic bag ban as an environmentalist. I said we should do a California redemption value. How many of you know what CRV is?
Something with like bottles.
Bottles and cans. You pay an extra nickel when you buy a beverage container, and somebody can return that beverage container for a nickel later. Imagine if we did that for plastic bags. It probably wouldn't reach the ocean very much. And people would say, well, you know, but it's still plastic, and plastic is horrible, and we should stop using plastic, so we should use paper, right? And this is where the environmental science might surprise you, and that's why I use this example. Environmentalists are not always right. It's the wacky thing about my class. As it turns out, probably, this is debatable, but probably our biggest problem is long-term changes in our climate. How many of you have heard about this climate change thing? Paper bags are much worse for climate change than plastic bags. How many of you are surprised to hear that? Because plastic is made from petroleum, you know. And it turns out that plastic bags are way better for climate change than paper bags. Would anybody like to guess why? Somebody actually said it, and I made fun of him when he said it. Would you like to defend yourself before I pick someone else? Why?
Is it because we're cutting down tons of trees and stopping them from reabsorbing carbon dioxide?
You're right, but generally those are being cut down in tree farms where trees will grow again, and so that's all short cycle carbon that doesn't offer a long-term carbon offset. As long as those areas remain vegetated, all things considered, you're right to track that carbon, but it works out in the end.
The processing and production of the paper bag itself.
That is one thing, yes. The processing and production of those paper bags is much more labor intensive. Plastic bags are made from a little blip of naphtha, which is a petroleum product. And it just takes like literally there's like droplet volumes and go and it like, you know, that's how they make the sheets of it. And after they blow it and spread it out and cool it, then they just press them, and the net production cost of a plastic bag is, these numbers keep changing, but it's about 1/3000th of a paper bag. Full production. Extraction costs are both pretty ugly. In some places, petroleum is listed. The processing of petroleum to make the naphtha is far dirtier, but the volumes we're talking about versus plastic bags, it actually disappears. Anybody want to guess though why paper bags are so much worse for climate? Who said this? Yeah. So I don't know if you ever worked at a grocery store, but if you're taking out a bundle of paper bags to restock, you get this thing that's like that big, size of a milk crate. That's like 40 paper bags or something, 60, I don't know. And if you ever have to buy plastic bags for a store, you open a little tiny box and there's like 5,000 in there. Because plastic bags are such small volumes, you can fill a container with a gazillion of them. Plus, plastic is made all over the US, but paper is only made into bags in a few places. So each paper bag weighs much more and is larger, shipped a longer distance. Their transportation cost to get the paper bag to the supermarket causes a ton of climate change compared to the... Is this starting to sound like a waste of your time and you're like, bro, I don't even want to think about this? That's environmental science. It's looking at all these wacky, surprising, distant relationships that actually make a big difference that we don't see in the day-to-day. Our whole lives, we just shop and consume and make garbage, and then we go to sleep and then we repeat that. Like, that's all my life is. But there's all these things where we change the environment in these surprising ways that we don't see. We're not a part of that. That's what this class is for. Fun fact, the bleaching of paper is really bad for the ocean. The erosion caused by logging is really bad for terrestrial ecosystems and ocean ecosystems. Plastic, all things considered, is not the worst pollution in the ocean, and BT dubs could have been resolved easier. Before you leave, before you leave, I'm sorry. I just want to hold you for like 30 seconds, please. I'll make it fast, I promise. This class might frustrate some of your environmentalism, and I apologize in advance. But Priuses may not be a good call. Steel water bottles might be a bad idea. It's an environmental science class, and it's really interesting, and I'm glad to meet you all, and I'll see you around later. Bye-bye. You walk him up and tell him on the way we're going 42? Oh, shit. Oh, you're here. Just use paper,
Thank you.
masking tape. 4 layers of masking tape. Trust me, it's right over there on the side.
So I'm.
42.
Right here, I was under here.
Yes.
These are...
This one doesn't matter. It's supposed to be like the best right now, but it's cloudy.
Yeah, we ain't gonna get no. If the
If
clouds clear, it'll be worth it, but it's happening right now. You can see the lights starting
I
to
want to
change.
just do it. Denise is doing it.
I want to do too.
What are your next classes?
She's Canadian.
Claudia, what's your class?
What's going on? What's your class?
I thought you were gonna take it.
Me too.
Do it this way. Do it this way.
I haven't walked to class because what if I don't get a seat? Come on. Okay, go.
See you guys
We
later.
don't have a seat. Is there a third period? Apes class? What is it? Is it like the bottom class? It's just a regular class? It's 4 layers.
Oh shit.
You got it.
I'll just pump out.
She's a
Fifth period TA.
I big.
Here, right here.
That.
Here, here, here. That's what I'm doing.
We should do it this way too. So it's like crisscross.
Okay. Another crisscross. I wanna watch the clips, bitch.
No, but like the junior high is having like PE and all that to be inside their play for kids.
Okay, that I would expect that too from junior
I
high
was
kids.
seeing one.
I want to too, like so bad, but I know that like
I just need to stab it. You have scissors.
stab it.
Yeah, you need a hole.
How big?
It doesn't matter. This should work.
Is this 4 layers? Oh yeah, that little thing.
Yeah,
Here, let me hold it from the.
We lost her. She's gone.
Cool.
And I'm sitting where I want.
Ooh, you pick?
Does anyone know? Everyone just sat down? Okay.
Alright.
You two.
Yeah, we just had this one.
Oh my god, wait, why are these posters just like the posters in mine?
I like the picture.
Yeah, no, I totally didn't. By the way, everyone, you both have 6 periods. Yeah, we get 4 classes. Yeah. You have 6 periods? Yeah. You guys stand it?
Yes.
You are. She's president. I think you are. Don't worry about it. Oh my god. Oh my god, our favorite person, Amor.
That'll be so
Amor, I love you, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be so annoying.
You will be. You'll be fine. What are your plans to be president?
No, there he is. Why is it always like this? Yeah, I was with you.
Paper that we wrote.
Now it looks really
Yes. I brought high school markers. I had to read that.
There's no seniors in my class.
Like, no, and I got
There was a carbon dioxide and then a flat line.
right now. Yeah, I have first period.
So just a flat line on temperature and just completely skyrocket. Right.
It's here.
I was like,
I love
and
it.
this is over here as fast as I could. It's so long.
Oh, so they switched from the second to fourth, so I have Ken in second, and then Ken fourth.
Yeah, he asked me something like people don't know. Like, I don't know. I like,
What's supposed to be?
Hello, babies!
Yeah.
He's really funny too.